Hello everybody. Today's second review will be of Halloween 2018 movie. So this one is kind of different, as opposed to a new storyline. What they did was they took it from the very first movie and they skip everything else that happens. And Michael has been in Smith Groves for 40 years, and then he finally escapes now instead of everything else that happened. So it just kind of it's like a new storyline, and I kind of like this one a little bit better. So anyhow, let's get into everything that takes place in the movie, because I have my notes right here. So we start at Smith Groves. Obviously, I've already mentioned that. Two people there to look at a patient who has spent 40 years in captivity. We know that's Michael, and has not said a word. The two people meet with Dr. Sartain, who is Dr. Sartain is now Michael's caretaker instead of Dr. Loomis, and Dr. Sartain talks about his life obsession with Michael and how he was a student of Dr. Loomis's, so he used to work with Dr. Loomis before Dr. Loomis passed away. Aaron and the other reporter, I thought they were reporters, meet with Michael, accompanied by Dr. Sartain. Aaron, who is the one reporter, questions Michael about the night he killed his family. He then pulls Michael's mask out of his bag. Michael's head turns slightly. Aaron says to him, "You can feel it. You can feel the mask." So Michael's kind of drawn to the power of the mask, I guess, that it holds over him. Aaron steps right up to the yellow line, holding the mask in his hand, and begins screaming, "Say something," and then the opening credits start. Aaron tracks down Laurie Strode. He is an investigative journalist. So I was just assuming that he was a reporter, but I guess he's not. Aaron and his partner question Laurie about her story, so what's happened to her over time, and also about the night she was attacked. Michael is being transported to a new facility from Smith Groves. Laurie's daughter was taken away from her due to the fact that she was seen as an unfit mother because she was so obsessed with what happened to her that night. And she obviously wasn't the proper parent figure for anybody, because her obsession was more important to her than, I guess, her own daughter. It's kind of what they're trying to tell you there. Aaron tells Laurie he showed Michael his mask, and he won't talk to anyone, but he thinks Michael might talk to her. Then we go to this girl talking with her friends about her grandmother who was nearly killed. We then find out that the girl's grandmother is Laurie. Laurie gives her the $3,000 she got from Aaron for even participating in the interview that Aaron wanted to do with her. Laurie practices her aim at her homemade gun range. A tape of Dr. Loomis plays saying that Michael should be killed. There is no sense in keeping evil alive. And the tape does say other things, but I don't want to get too much into that because you kind of want to just listen to that yourself without having too much said about it. Dr. Sartain gets on the transfer bus with Michael because he won't leave Michael behind because Michael is his patient. Laurie shows up at the restaurant her daughter and granddaughter are at. She begins to break down. She begins talking about seeing the shape. So, if you don't know, Michael is also referred to as the shape in some of the... I've gone on IMDb and looked at, who was cast, and sometimes it just says the shape, which is really weird, because in the movie it calls him Michael Myers, but I think this is the first time it's ever mentioned as the shape. So then Laurie's daughter explains to her daughter how she grew up with Laurie and how hard it was on her. A man and his son nearly hit the mental patients on the road. The transport bus has crashed. The son calls 911. His father is already out of the vehicle. He then gets out of the truck as well. He walks over to one of the security guards, kind of pokes him with the end of his gun. Then the security guard comes to and tells him to run. The son approaches the bus, gets in the bus. Dr. Sartain jumps out from behind the seat. The kid accidentally shoots him. He runs back to the truck to drive away, and Michael is already there, so Michael kills him inside of the vehicle, and I guess takes it for himself. Oh yes, there's a cop that gets a call to the crashed bus. He then calls for backup, finds Dr. Sartain on the bus floor. Dr. Sartain asks if Michael, has escaped. Aaron and his partner visit Judith Meyer's grave. Aaron begins to tell the story of how Michael killed Judith. Michael is watching them from afar in the graveyard. Sheriff shows man the list of patients on the bus, one of them being Michael Myers. And I guess the person who I thought was a sheriff wasn't actually the sheriff. So this cop is showing the sheriff the list of patients that were on the bus. Sorry, my bad. Aaron and his partner stop at the gas station. Michael has followed them there. Aaron's partner goes into the bathroom. Michael enters the bathroom. Aaron finds the gas station employee is dead. Then this is kind of like an eerie scene because he goes to Michael shakes the door of the stall. She says someone's in here. Then Aaron finds people dead. Then Michael drops the teeth over the stall door. Aaron fights with Michael, but obviously to no avail. Michael ends up killing Aaron and his partner. He then finds a mask in the back of their car, and obviously takes off. Laurie hears news of the transport bus crashing. Ray, Allison, and Karen. So Ray and Karen is Laurie's daughter. Ray is her husband, and Allison is her granddaughter. So Laurie is inside her daughter's house. Laurie tells Karen the bus crashed, asks where Allison is. They get into an argument. Karen kicks Laurie out. Frank is the cop. The cops are called to the gas station. Frank sees Laurie there. So obviously Frank and Laurie have a connection. A little bit later on in the movie, Frank said he was the first cop on the scene besides Dr. Loomis. So I'm assuming that he was the original sheriff from the first movie. I might be mistaken on that, but I believe I might be right about that. I'll have to look that up later, but anyhow, that's what I'm thinking. We then go to two kids running into Michael on the street. Everybody's out trick-or-treating. Michael picks up a hammer from the shed. He goes into a house, kills a woman inside, grabs the kitchen knife, leaves the house. He then walks down the street about, I would say, 2 or 3 houses away, goes into this house, killing the woman inside as well. So there was just kind of like some senseless killing of Michael going from house to house, I guess. Allison gets a call from Laurie, but she hangs up. Vicky, who is one of Allison's friends, is babysitting. Allison and her boyfriend get in a fight. He throws her phone at the bowl of pudding at the party they're at. Some Halloween party. High school, college, I'm not really sure. Anyhow, so obviously there's no way to get a hold of Allison now. We then go to Vicky washing a butcher knife in the kitchen. She goes outside. Her boyfriend scares her. They're downstairs together. Vicky hears a noise in the house. Jillian, who is the kid she's babysitting, claims he saw someone watching from the hallway. Vicky and Jillian go upstairs. Vicky then pranks Jillian. Oh, my nose is stuffy. Jillian asks Vicky to close the closet, and obviously she can't. And then when about the third time she goes to close it, Michael jumps out. Sorry, just hold on a second. Ooh, excuse me. Where were we? And then her boyfriend grabs a knife from downstairs, but nothing else is shown in that scene. Laurie and Frank hear call of a domestic disturbance. Frank finds Vicky dead, and as Laurie approaches, she spots Michael from outside. She fires a shot. Frank finds Vicky's boyfriend dead in the main part of the house. Michael then exits the house. Laurie is able to shoot Michael. Dr. Sartain arrives. Dr. Sartain meets Laurie. Laurie says that she prayed for Michael to escape every day for the last 40 years so she could kill him. Dr. Sartain and Frank talk about Michael and Laurie. Dr. Sartain tells Frank that Michael is property of the state and he must not be harmed. Laurie comes to Karen's house, tells her that it isn't safe anymore, asks where Allison is. Carrie calls Allison. Obviously, there's no answer. Then we go to Allison and her friend walking down the street. He goes to take the shortcut. He tries to kiss her. This is her other friend, not her boyfriend. She then leaves him behind to go home. Michael appears from behind a tree. This is one of my favorite scenes. So her friend begins talking to Michael, thinking that it's the owner of the house, just kind of playing a Halloween prank. So then there were motion sensor lights in the backyard. The motion sensor lights go out. Then Michael is standing on the other side of him. So this kid kind of starts to get creeped out. The lights go out again and come back on, and Michael attacks and kills Oscar, who was the guy's name. Allison runs back towards him because she can hear his screams, but by the time she gets there, Oscar's obviously dead, and then Michael appears again from behind the wall, and Allison runs. Frank and Dr. Sartain find Allison. Ray, Carrie, and Laurie go back to her place. They then go down to the basement, and they arm up, or arm themselves with guns, weapons, whatever they need. Allison, Frank, and Dr. Sartain spot Michael walking down the street. Frank runs him over. Dr. Sartain then approaches Michael's body. Frank tells him to move, and then Dr. Sartain stands up, turns around, and stabs Frank, killing him. He then, Allison at the same time is trying to get out of the cop car. Then Dr. Sartain puts on Michael's mask. I guess Dr. Sartain now knows what it feels like to kill. I guess he enjoys it. He then puts Michael in the back of the cop car with Allison and throws the mask in beside Michael on the seat. Dr. Sartain tells Allison of the time that he has been working with Michael and that Michael has never said a word to him. Allison lies and tells him Michael spoke to her. Allison tells him Michael only said one word, but won't tell Dr. Sartain what it is unless he lets her go. Dr. Sartain stops the car. He then begins to ask her again. He then asks her if the one word that he said was his sister's name, Judith. Michael then wakes up. Michael kills Dr. Sartain, and Allison is able to get out of the cop car. She runs away. Two other cops from down the street, I'm not really sure what they were doing, maybe just watching to see if anybody was leaving or coming in and out of the town, maybe. Anyway, they approach the cop car that Dr. Sartain, Allison, and Michael were in, and they find Dr. Sartain dead. Allison runs through the forest. Cop car pulls up to Laurie's house. Ray goes out to investigate. He knocks on the window. He's asking if there's any word on where Allison is. When he opens the door to the cop car, the two cops are dead. One of them with Dr. Sartain's weapon stabbed into his head, and the other one with his head completely cut off. And there's a flashlight in his head lighting up his eyes and mouth. This movie, the kills in it were brutal, which was kind of what we wanted. Where was I? Oh yes, and then Michael kills Ray outside. Laurie tells Karen to go to the basement, that Michael is there. Laurie looks out of the small window in the door. She doesn't see anything. All of a sudden, Michael's arm comes through the window, grabbing her. He then puts his other arm through the other window of the door. He picks her up by her head and kind of slams her head into the door a couple times. He then turns around and starts picking her up. So Laurie's struggling, but she is able to shoot Michael in the hand. actually taking 2 or 3 of his fingers off, I believe. So that was a gory scene. Anyhow, Michael lets go of her after that. Michael then is able to enter the house. He just kind of like breaks down the door. Laurie fires another shot through the floor because her and Karen are now in the basement. She then tells Karen that she has to go and finish this, so she goes back up the stairs to finish the fight. Allison runs and is able to find Laurie's homemade shooting range. Laurie follows a trail of blood up another set of stairs, so there's actually like 3 levels to this house. Laurie finds Ray dead in the closet. At least I believe it was Ray. Now she's kind of in like this room of mannequins, and then all of a sudden she shines the light on this other part of the room, and Michael jumps out from behind one of the mannequins. He stabs Laurie and throws her from the top floor of the house. Allison enters the house calling for Karen and Laurie. Karen comes out of the basement, grabs Allison, takes her back down. Michael tries to break into the basement. He ends up being successful. He tears like the whole mechanism system that Laurie has to swing the center island out to go into the basement. It's kind of a cool concept, how she keeps it safe and keeps her house locked up tight or whatever. She also has this weird system where every time she checks a room, she hits a button, and this weird like metal door comes down to close off the room, so at least if Michael's in there, she can't be attacked from behind. Karen grabs a gun in the basement because Michael's obviously able to tear away the island and tip it over. She kind of fools him by yelling out to Laurie that she can't do it, she can't shoot Michael. And then as soon as Michael hears that, he appears at the top of the stairs and she shoots him, I guess, kind of like right in the neck area is what it looked like. And this blood goes flying everywhere. And then all of a sudden it shows Laurie's face in the darkness behind Michael. She then attacks him. Another fight breaks out. Michael throws Laurie. She grabs a pan, hits him in the head, knocking him into the basement. Michael tries to come back up the stairs. He grabs Karen. Allison is able to stab him. He lets go of Karen. Laurie then traps him in the basement. She then turns on the gas lines and throws a road flare into the basement, setting the whole house and Michael on fire. They then run outside. Allison waves down a truck driving by, and it shows Allison is still holding the knife in her hand when they're driving away in the back of the truck. And then the credits roll, and I wanted to wait because I remember there being something. And yes, you can hear Michael's breathing after the credits are over. So it kind of leaves it as like a cliffhanger for a second one if Allison holding the knife didn't kind of do that already. Ooh, my stomach is grumbling. Guess it's time for a lunch after this. So yes, I wasn't... when I first heard about this movie coming out, I wasn't sure how it was going to go, basically because I didn't know who the cast was going to be, but I'm glad that Jamie Lee Curtis came back to do her iconic role one more time, and I hope that, honestly, I hope that this storyline that they're going to go with does the movie a little bit more justice than the older storyline did. But so far, this movie, actually watching this again, I think this might be, besides the first one and the Rob Zombie films, it's definitely in my top 5. I would say it might even be my favorite one now. I would definitely give this movie a 10 out of 10. So definitely, if you're a fan of the original, go and watch this one. I mean, watch them all because they're all good in their own way. I mean, my opinion is just my opinion, right? So somebody else might like one of the movies that I didn't like as much more than the originals. Who knows? It's just opinion based, right? But if you're a fan of the Halloween movies and you're a fan of the Laurie Strode storyline, I would definitely say go and watch this one. So for the Laurie Strode storyline, I would say the first and second movies, obviously because they had Jamie Lee Curtis in them, and then I would say go watch the Rob Zombie ones, and then come to this one. because that just makes the most sense to me. And then you can always go back and watch the other ones. I would almost say that would make more sense because it's kind of like a different storyline, even though Laurie does return in some of the older films in the original way they were going to do the story. But I would say this storyline is going to end up much better and hopefully kind of bring a little bit more closure to the story. Hopefully. Because, the Halloween Resurrection movie, the way they ended it was just, it wasn't as good as it should have been, right? So anyway, yeah, I would definitely give this movie a 10 out of 10. I would almost say that this, as far as the mask design goes, it was kind of like, almost like a mixture between the original, the Rob Zombie, and then it had its own little twist into this one. Because this mask is much darker, but I'm glad they brought back the original cast. So the original guy who played Michael Myers in the very first one, I know they had a secondary guy playing him as well, probably for some of the stunts and stuff. Just because obviously they're older. They're older now. There's no way getting around it, so they wouldn't be able to do quite as much as they did back in the day, back in the original films. But yeah, kudos on bringing back the original cast, because I don't think this movie would have done nearly as well, and I'm really looking forward to the second and third installment of this series. So I guess altogether, the original storyline will have basically 5 movies or 4 movies, whichever way they're doing it. I believe it's just supposed to be the first one, and then it skips everything else, and then this one, and then obviously the 2 that are coming. But unfortunately, we weren't able to get the second installment this year due to COVID. I believe the release date has been pushed back, so hopefully everything is back to normal and I can just go watch it in theaters and then kind of do a review of it afterwards. I might have to watch it again on DVD, unfortunately, because it's just easier to kind of do this stuff at home, to take notes and stuff, and then do that kind of thing after. But yeah, really well done with the storyline. Excellent movie. Definitely recommend if you're a Michael Myers or Halloween movie fan. And I think that's about all I have to say about this movie. As far as I saw, there were no flaws in this movie. So I don't have anything bad to say about this movie. I know that seems like kind of maybe a common theme with me, that I don't really have much bad to say about the movies, but I know I did kind of talk about the mask design and stuff, which is good for this movie, but they killed it with the mask design on this one, I would say. They kind of added like a darker theme to it. So, yeah, but anyway, I think that's all I have to say about this film, and I will see you guys in the next one. Like, share, and subscribe, and bye-bye for now.